Hello and welcome to the Quib, where we will be discussing the true goings-on at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. My name is Taylor Smith, one of your hosts. I am in Slytherin, and I am Hogwarts' first American exchange student. But there's a lot more to it, which we will discuss in a minute. I want to introduce you, however, to my co-host, Morgan Paisley.
Hello, my name's Morgan. I am a Ravenclaw prefect, and I have been assigned the delightful duty of showing Taylor around Hogwarts in his first year here. So, now Taylor, didn't your whole family move here?
Yes, it was a new thing that your Ministry of Magic is doing in accompaniment with our Ambassador of Magic. Pretty much the same thing as your Ministry of Magic, just more Americanized.
Different name, really.
Yeah, the different sections and such, but this is not the place to discuss that. But yes, they wanted to try a cultural exchange, you can say, where a whole British magical family and an American family swap places instead of just the students. So you can see the different culture and see how magic is different from area to area.
I see. So your parents are staying around London then, while your
yes.
brother are here?
Yes, my parents are in London, and I do have a brother. His name is Wallace. He is in Gryffindor, actually.
Wow, that's so strange because there's always been the bit of tension between Slytherin and Gryffindor, but we can talk about that later. But wow, what an interesting experience for your whole family. That's really nice.
It is. I'm learning loads more than I did back at my old school of Alma Aileron.
Well, sometimes people just blossom better in different places. Speaking of differences, now, you and your brother got here about a week and a half late, so how did that work with you? Well, first of all, at your old school, you must have been in a house there, too, so how did the whole sorting thing work?
Well, we did come late, so we didn't partake in your usual sorting ceremony. Obviously, your Hogwarts and my old school had different houses and different qualities that they looked for.
Mm-hmm.
So, at first, we didn't know where we belonged, but your principal, your headmaster, Dumbledore, I believe his name was, he took us up to his office where we had to try on the sorting hats. And it told us that we should be in Slytherin. And my brother being in Gryffindor, obviously.
Yeah. Well, that's so interesting. It's a shame you missed our sorting ceremony because we have a nice feast, and the first years come in a little later than everyone else because they row the boats. Well, I shouldn't say they row them; they row themselves. But the boats across the Great Lake there, and they come in, line up, and Professor McGonagall calls them each by name, and the sorting hat's put on their head, and it calls out where they're supposed to go, and there's cheering, and it's pretty nice. So it's sad that you had to miss that, but it's good that you're here with us anyway. So,
well, I am fully enjoying my time at Hogwarts,
and that makes me so glad.
So, and it doesn't hurt to have such a wonderful host to show me around.
Oh, you're too much. So I think this is a good place to move on to our first segment of our show, which is called Straight from the Quick Quotes Quill, which most of you know is Rita Skeeter's little friend. But it's part of the shows where we're going to talk about all the gossip that we hear here around Hogwarts. So, what have you heard anything, Taylor? I mean, you've been here about under a month yet. Have you heard anything interesting yet?
I haven't heard anything, but I've seen something quite scandalous, I think.
Ooh, do tell.
Well, when I first got here, the very first person who introduced themselves to me was this one girl. She's in Ravenclaw. Her name was Cho Chang. Do you know her?
Yes, Cho's a very sweet girl.
Well, I don't know about sweets.
Oh?
If I had to pick a different word to describe her, I would say easy.
No, you better explain yourself. That's a very serious accusation.
Well, I was walking down the third floor corridor the other day, and I saw her pull quite a good-looking guy into an empty classroom and shut the door behind them. At first...
Was it a very tall Hufflepuff boy?
Yes, it was.
Oh, I bet you saw our own Cedric Diggory. He's a bit of a... how would you say it in America? A bit of a... pretty boy, I guess, would be a good way to put it. All the girls are fawning over him, but he and Cho have been together for a very long time now.
Well, he is a very handsome man, I will say that.
Yes, he's very attractive. So they went into an empty classroom?
Yeah, I thought at first maybe, they were like doing some homework or something, but it seemed kind of odd that they weren't in the library.
Yeah.
But so the next morning, I seen her in the Great Hall during breakfast, and I went up and said hi to her. And I noticed she had some kind of bruise on her neck.
A bruise? Like he throttled her?
No, not quite. How shall I put it? She had a beauty mark.
Beauty mark. Do you mean a hickey?
Well, trying to keep it clean here, but yes, I believe it was.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
I wondered why she was wearing that scarf.
I know, she didn't have it tied up when I talked to her, so I happened to notice it. It was...
Oh, that is some juicy information. Wow. Well, I guess it was just a matter to be expected because of how long they've been together. But speaking of relationships and such, I'm sure you've met Neville Longbottom. I saw you guys talking earlier this morning.
Yes, he seems to be a really nice guy. He seems a bit clumsy, but...
Yes, he's a bit of a bumbler, but he's very, very sweet. Now, I don't know if you know him, very well, but
This morning was the first time I met him, so I don't really know much about him.
Okay, well, he is very, very good at all things herbology. I don't know if you've been into the greenhouse recently, but there was a little section roped off that said, "Do not disturb property of Neville Longbottom."
I did see that. I was in herbology class Monday, so I did see that.
Yeah, and you've probably noticed that there's some very pretty flowers in there.
Those pink and purple ones?
Yes, and I recognized one of the types of flowers there, and if I recognized it correctly, it's a very, very difficult flower to grow. From the minute you plant it, it recognizes your fingerprints and your DNA signature, so to speak. So if anyone else touches it when it grows or tries to pluck it or anything, it explodes.
Wow, that sounds really dangerous. Why would he be growing that?
I'm not sure. Maybe so people don't mess with them, but they are very beautiful flowers. Now, luckily, once they are plucked by the person that grew them, they are safe. So, I mean, there's no, accidents, so to speak. But, this morning I had herbology, and I noticed that the little roped-off area was gone, as were all the flowers.
Really?
Yes. And I thought that was kind of strange, but I didn't think too much on it. Then today at lunch, I saw, over at the Hufflepuff table, a pretty blonde girl, Hannah Abbott. Have you met her?
I believe I have potions with her.
Yes, she's very sweet, but she had one of these flowers in her hair.
Really?
Yeah. She can't have picked it herself because it would have blown up.
And I doubt she would have had it in her hair then.
Yeah, for sure. So it brings to to question, I wonder if Neville grew these flowers to give to her. So, obviously I was a little perplexed. So I watched as we were all leaving lunch, and as we were walking out of the Great Hall, Hannah happened to wave at Neville. And Neville started to blush so brightly. I'm surprised he didn't give off light, to be serious. And he proceeded to run into a brick wall. And you even said he's clumsy. He's a very clumsy person. But so I imagine that wave certainly must have gotten him excited.
Like triggered or something, or...
Yeah, so I'm wondering if something's there. It's something we should keep an eye on, I suppose.
It sure sounds like it.
Yeah. So, that's pretty interesting. And we've talked about some very nice people. Now, Taylor, have you met anybody who's a little unsavory?
Now that you mention it, yes. I really don't want to speak badly about my own house. Mm-hmm. But there is this one boy in my house, a blonde boy, name's Draco Malfoy.
Yeah, yes, I recognize him. He's a bit of a son of a banshee, if you pardon my language. Yeah, it's, he's really, I don't cuss very often, but he certainly, he's a swish and flicker, I'll tell you. But, so what happened?
Well, first, I just got this impression, like, for one, I think he's a poser.
A poser? Like he, acts like he's something he's not.
Yeah, it's like he's better than everybody else. I can't stand people like that.
Yeah, that's definitely Draco, alright.
Like, an example is, him saying that he's better than Hogwarts.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he says he wants to go to another school.
Another school? Oh, probably Durmstrang, huh?
I've never heard of Durmstrang, but that's not the name he used.
Oh, really? Who did he mention?
He's mentioned somebody named Rumble Roar.
Rumble Roar.
Who is the headmaster at some school called Pig Farts.
I'm sorry, did you say farts? Like breaking wind?
I did. And
you're very sure that's what he said?
I am 100% positive that he said he belongs at Pig Farts.
Wow, well, he would probably fit in there, wouldn't he? Gosh. Okay, so what else have you experienced of our dear Draco?
Well, the other day in Defense Against the Dark Arts class, Professor Jackson, he was just going on one of his lectures, his
of course,
really long, drawn-out lectures. I mean, Jackson is a great professor. He really understands his stuff, but...
Yeah, he's very intelligent.
But Draco seems to think otherwise.
Of course.
I mean, he was just saying some rude things to Professor Jackson.
Oh my.
Yeah, like, Professor Jackson was talking about, hinky punks.
Yes.
And, Draco said that this whole class was just horrible, and that Jackson was a horrible teacher, and that his father was going to hear about this.
Of course, it sounds like a broken record there. He says that quite often. Oh, goodness. Well, did anything happen because of this?
Well, it went on for quite a while, and Professor Jackson tried to ignore it, but Draco just kept on going. So finally, Professor Jackson got a little sick of it, and he deducted 30 points from Slytherin.
Oh no, and you're of course in Slytherin.
Yes, I earned like 20 of those points, and it's like all my hard work was for nothing.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if Draco did it on purpose just to lose the points you had gained. I mean, while he's very proud of being a Slytherin and he wants them to win everything, when he decides that he doesn't like somebody, he'd, what's the term here? Sit on his own sword, really, to mess with you, I guess, is the term.
I just don't understand
problems.
what I would have done to have him hate me so much, if that's the case.
I don't know. Probably because you talk to people other than Slytherins. And your brother being in Gryffindor probably doesn't help, but that's not your fault and not his fault, and it certainly doesn't mean he's bad. So Draco's just very against anybody in Gryffindor house, so I think that might have been what brought it on.
So have you had any interesting class stories lately?
Yes, actually, and it actually includes a Gryffindor.
Really?
Now, I take divination, and I know, you think it's silly and not really a serious magic, but, I needed the credits, and, so, I'm in her class earlier this week, it was a couple days ago now, and, I don't know if you've been up there or not, but her classroom's very, very warm.
I do not take divination, so I have not experienced her classroom, and I thank Merlin for that.
I don't blame you. It's a little bit boring, to be totally honest. But it's always very, very warm in her classroom, even in the dead of winter. So we saw her fanning herself, and we didn't think anything of it. But something you need to know about Professor Trelawney is every once in a while she gets in this way, and her voice changes, and she sounds funny, and her eyes roll back in her head, and she wants us to believe that she's giving us a vision of the future. And, sometimes it come true, but, it's never anything too serious, like, oh, it's going to rain tomorrow, which is a little strange to have such a big to-do over, but I think she's trying to prove something, to be totally honest.
Yeah, I heard that she is a fraud, actually.
Well, that's a story. That's a conversation for another episode, I think. We'll talk about that later. But she suddenly gets in this way, and her voice goes all strange. And she goes up to this little Gryffindor first year, so a little 11-year-old girl, looks like a little mouse, really. And she's saying, "Oh dear, you will find your true love within the next month." So
this girl's 11.
This girl's 11, yes.
And she's finding her true love in a month?
Her true love in a month.
That sounds a bit dodgy to me.
Yeah, it's a little strange. So this girl stands up and she's jumping and flopping and squealing and all excited about some boy, I guess, that she's fond of. And, of course, Professor Trelawney eventually comes out of her funk, so to speak. And she tells the girl what are you doing? Sit down, be quiet. And the girl says, "But you just had a vision, and you told me I'm going to meet my true love, blah, 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 blah." And so basically the rest of that class was, "Oh, well, of course, my visions are always correct, so you should do this and this and this." And the rest was just boyfriend tips, really. So I took out my Muggle Studies my Muggle Studies homework and started working on that until the end of class. So here comes the end of class. The little girl is so excited. She's going to meet the love of her life. And I guess she wants to kind of how would you say, put the odds in her favor, so to speak.
She wants to push it.
Yes, she wants to push the envelope. So she's asking about love potions. Now, I don't know if you know much about love potions, but I suppose the whole topic should start with Romilda Vane. You've met her, yes?
I've seen her around.
She's...
And I've heard rumors that she's a bit, she's kind of a fruitcake.
Yeah, she's a little unsettled. When she gets an idea in her head, she goes full force with it. Now, what that has to do with love potions is not too long ago, well, actually for a while now, she's had a thing for Mr. Harry Potter, so she's been trying to procure some of these love potions. So, and that reputation has kind of just stayed with her through the years, and she's not very fond of it because it was it's obviously not something that works very well. But so I told this little girl, I couldn't help it. She was so annoying. So I said to her, and this is totally bollocks, I made all of it up. I said, if you go to Romilda Vane, she knows how to brew love potions, and she's so good at it that she will make them specific to your situation. Basically like girl A plus boy B sort of a situation. So this little girl goes running down the hall, Romilda, I must find Romilda Vane. It was so funny, I couldn't help it. But,
well, it seems like, I know a little bit about love potions, but they don't actually create love, though.
No, they do not. What they do is they make the person that ingests it very intensely infatuated with you. It would be like, I have to be with her, she's so wonderful and so beautiful and blah, blah, blah. But, eventually they do wear off, and some of them are made stronger, so they last longer. And I think the reason that most women that actually use them is because they figure that the man they enchant, so to speak, will, once he comes out of it, be like, oh, well, I'm already here, might as well stay. And, actually, speaking of my Muggle Studies homework, I believe I read up on something that sounded kind of like a love potion. It was like, there's a roofie. I think that was it. And I don't know what the top of a building has to do with anything, but apparently it's like a Muggle love potion, so to speak. But so it's a bit of an interesting class.
Well, that sounds really funny. I wish I could have seen it.
You should have been there. You would have loved it.
I'm sure I would have. But you mentioned someone named Harry Potter?
Yes, I did.
Well, why don't we use that as a topic in our next segments? Pulled from the Pensieve, where we discuss pretty much whatever's on our mind.
All right, let's do that then.
Since I am new to your country, I don't know any of your history very much, but this kid you talked about, Harry Potter, I've seen him around, and everybody seems to adore him, like he's some kind of celebrity, except for, the Slytherins and our head of house and the potions master, Professor Snape.
Yes.
Is he famous, or is he... What's the deal with him?
Yes, actually, he is quite famous. You have heard of, the very dope wizard, we don't like to say his name, you know who, or he who shall not be named,
Well, again, I don't know much of your history, but I have heard about this one dark wizard from over here. I believe his name is, Voldemort?
Don't... Future reference, don't say the name. That's a bit of a no-no.
I apologize. I was not aware.
That's okay, you are new, so it's alright. But anyway, we call him, you-know-who, or he who shall not be named. So, anyway, he who shall not be named was going about Britain, basically just causing a whole bunch of havoc. He was of the belief that only purebloods were worthy of just about anything, really.
Now, for clarification, pureblood is being of parentage
Yes.
with witches and wizards.
Yes, and all through back, there's no Muggle-borns or half-bloods. Now, see, I am a pureblood. The Paisley family goes way, way back. But really, in my opinion, I don't see if it makes me any better than anyone else. I don't think that's the case.
I personally am a half-blood. My father was a Muggle, and my mother is a witch.
Yeah, see, and you're fantastic. So,
well, thank you.
You're welcome. So, anyway, Voldemort was going around causing havoc, trying to basically take over, and for some reason, one reason or another, he had a very intense dislike for the Potter family. Now, Harry, when all of this happened, was a little over a year old, I believe. And, Voldemort himself... Yeah, I'm sorry, I feel that to express the severity of what happened, I had to use his name a little. Now, he himself came to the Potter house, and this is completely unheard of. He had so many lackeys called Death Eaters that they were just, at this point, it was a very dark time to be a wizard, because there were just so many of them, and our auras and strongest wizards really couldn't do anything to fight them. So it was very strange that you-know-who himself came to the Potter house on that fateful evening. But for one reason or another he did, and as the story goes, he murdered Harry's parents.
Really?
And when he was about to murder little Harry, this tiny little baby, the killing curse that he used rebounded off of Harry, unaffecting him completely, and hit you-know-who and destroyed him. Now, this is pretty much insane, because it's a tiny little baby, only a year old, can't even talk yet. And somehow he destroys the darkest wizard of all time. It's very strange.
That does sound a little strange.
Yes, it's a giant mystery, really. So, Harry was then taken to his Muggle aunt and uncle, and was raised there. Now, of course, Harry doesn't remember any of this.
Well, of course not.
Yeah, so he doesn't really enjoy talking about any of it, really. And if I was in his situation, I'd want to just forget it ever happened, to be completely honest.
I completely agree. It's weird to be famous for something you don't remember.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've noticed the scar on his forehead.
I did. I was going to ask him about it, but I figured it might have been a bit private, and he might not want to talk about it.
Yeah,
Does that scar have something to do with it?
Yes, actually. That is where they say, I may be wrong, but it's a pretty strange shape for a regular scar, it's a lightning bolt and such. But Dumbledore himself has said that exact spot is where the killing curse bounced off of Harry and hit you-know-who. So that little mark was what was left, I guess. So you also mentioned that you've noticed that your housemates tend to be unfond of Mr. Potter in a way.
Yes.
Yeah. As long as the school has been open, the Slytherin house has had the highest concentration of pure-blood children in their house, basically. And, you know, not all the purebloods end up there, because the Weasleys are pureblood all the way back, and they're all in Gryffindors. And, you know, there are some half-bloods and muggleborns in Slytherin as well. Now, let's see, I guess the best way to explain it would be to go way, way, way back to when, even before the school was founded. Godric Gryffindor, the founder of Gryffindor House, and Salazar Slytherin, founder of Slytherin House, were very strong, very intelligent wizards. And they were the best of friends all through their lives. And when they got together with Rowena Ravenclaw and Helga Hufflepuff to create a school where the wizard children could learn and practice their magic, Salazar Slytherin only wanted to allow purebloods into the school.
That seems like kind of racist.
That's one way to think about it. That's definitely a term for it. Whereas Godric Gryffindor wanted anybody with even the tiniest drop of magic blood in him allowed. Now, this proved to be the downfall of a very strong friendship. And since the beginning, the Gryffindor house and the Slytherin house has always had a bitter rivalry between them. It seems to just, as far as I can tell, it's just old bad blood that really has no standing today. But, that would be why you've noticed that the Slytherins tend to dislike the Gryffindors. Now, I'm not saying that the Slytherins are bad. You know, there are some very upstanding people in Slytherin, very intelligent wizards.
And me, of course.
Of course. And Professor Snape is, of course, from Slytherin House, and he's very intelligent. And, you know, it's not a bad house, you know. It does have a bit of an unsavory reputation, though, because of Salazar Slytherin's beliefs when it comes to the purity of one's blood. All the Death Eaters, which were the followers of you-know-who, if you trace back all the ones that were, you know, the documented ones, the ones that got tried or punished or admitted it even, they all came from Slytherin House.
I can see how that would lead to a bad reputation.
Yes, it's a very bad reputation, but, you know, and they're not all bad. And there's no reason to dislike anyone for a reason as silly as, you know, blood purity. I think that's insane, personally, but maybe that's just me. I don't know. I guess, do you have any other questions concerning Mr. Potter or the houses?
Well, I have noticed that he hangs around with two people an awful lot.
Yes, actually. And it is ironic, if you notice. Harry himself is a half-blood.
I did not know that.
Yes, and his two best friends in the whole world are Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger. Now, Hermione is a Muggle-born. Both her parents are something like dentists, or...
What are dentists?
It's something to do with teeth, I think. We've talked about it briefly, but I don't know. And, of course, Ron, I mentioned, his family is all purebloods. So, I think we could all really learn a lesson from their friendship, you know, that, you know, they don't care about each other's blood and whatnot. And, I mean, Hermione, being Muggle-born, she's the smartest girl I know. She really is. So...
Well, when you say smart, do you mean smart as in intelligent, or smart as in in a magical sense?
Well, she's unbelievably intelligent. She's brilliant, really. And she is very astute when it comes to magical things. She's very, very smart. Very intelligent. So, I mean, that right there should prove that blood purity has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, in America, I've never had an issue with blood status. You know, we've always just kind of got along. I mean, there's some issues with certain families and such, but not because of blood. It just seems weird to hate and discriminate at someone based on something they have no choice in the matter of.
Yes, and that's the feeling of every wizard with his head on straight, in my opinion. But that's very good that your school, everyone gets along. It's very wonderful, and I guess it just really, I think it really goes all the way back, you know, to, like I said, Godric Gryffindor and Salazar Slytherin, and all of that anyone can read up on in Hogwarts: A History, which, by the way, mentioning Hogwarts: A History and Hermione Granger, she would like anyone listening to know that that book should be read. It's, you know, the required reading, and she's very tired of having to explain very simple things about Hogwarts to people over and over again. She wanted me to get that out there. So, Hogwarts: A History, if you see it, pick it up and read it. So, there's our little advertisement for the day.
That was great. Thank you for that. But I think now it's time to pass the mic over to my brother Wallace and Marnie Stevens for Balls and Beaters, our weekly Quidditch update.
Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome to Balls and Beaters, your weekly dose of what's going on in the Quidditch realm. I am Marnie Stevens of Hufflepuff.
And I'm Wallace Smith of Gryffindor. You may be a bit thrown by my accent, but hey, don't be alarmed. I'm just a transfer student from the good old US of A.
Don't worry, just because he's a Yank doesn't mean he can't talk Quidditch. He really knows his stuff.
Quidditch may not be the most popular sport in America, but it certainly is one of the most exciting. I used to play a little bit, but when I got here, I realized that we Americans do not take it as seriously as you Brits.
Pardon me, one of the most exciting? What could possibly be more exciting than Quidditch?
Seriously? Quad pot, obviously.
You're serious? How can you even call that a sport?
What? Of course it's a sport. There are more people on the pitch at the time than in Quidditch, and there is always the chance of a quad exploding and losing a player. With 11 players on each team flying around, things can get a little bit complicated.
Not buying it. Sounds like something toddlers play, riding around in toy brooms with their nappies leaking until they're old enough to play Quidditch.
It's a legitimate concern. How would you feel flying around with a ball that could explode at any second?
It just sounds like a glorified, what's that muggle game children's play? Hot potato. Only on brooms.
Alright, you know what? No more insulting quad pot, okay? We're here to talk Quidditch.
Fine.
How's team tryouts ended recently? Care to comment on what you've seen?
Ravenclaw seems to have beefed up their beaters a bit, while Slytherin continues just to teach the players to cheat.
That's uncalled for.
What? I'm just telling you what I saw at their tryouts. Showing the new chasers how to run players into the spectator stands is not a crucial part of the game.
I'll agree with you there, but maybe, just maybe, they were teaching their players to be a little bit more aggressive.
Let's agree to disagree. Moving on then. Gryffindor looks a lot stronger this year. The chasers were moving the quaffle really well at the tryout, but their keeper has improved and only missed a couple of the goals.
That sounds good. How about Hufflepuff?
I think they have a good chance at winning the cup this year. The tryout was more difficult than years past, and they have some very agile players.
I'm not even going to comment on the winning the cup part. But I heard you tried out for the team. What happened there?
I'll admit, I didn't train as hard over the summer as I should have. The other people trying out were just more prepared than I was. No matter, I'm working hard to try out next term.
Well, good luck to you on that one. Maybe we can train together, because I'm thinking about trying out next year, too.
Maybe. We'll see. Based on what we've seen at tryouts, how do you think the first match is going to go?
Well, I agree with you that Gryffindor looks a lot stronger this year. I think we can expect to see cleaner passes and higher scores from the Scarlet and Gold. Slytherin is a bit more aggressive, if that's the way you want to put it. A little lax on the rules, but hey, that's how Slytherin plays. I believe the Seekers are pretty evenly matched, so keeping an eye on that could prove to be very entertaining.
It's going to be a close match indeed, but I think Gryffindor will edge out ahead of Slytherin for the win.
Yeah, it's going to be a great match to watch. Waiting for November is going to be the hardest part.
One thing that will help the wait is keeping up on the International Quidditch League. Most of the teams have begun training and exhibition matches start soon. I have to say, I'm impressed with the teams from the United States. A couple of them have played well on the circuit over here and even made it to the World Cup. I'm interested to see how they do this year.
See, there are people in my home country that take it seriously. One thing is for sure, they would all wipe the floor with the Chudley Cannons.
Right you are. No matter what the team does, they just aren't on par with the rest of the league. I will say that I predict they will win one match this year.
Now who's the one that's delusional? They barely get qualified possession, let alone score more than a handful of goals all season. What makes you think they'll get a win?
I don't know, just faith, I guess. It would give them morale a boost. They consistently come out on the bottom, so one little victory could feel like the World Cup.
Okay, I can see that. I think this would be a good time to mention this weekend in Hogsmeade, Zonko's Joke Shop is offering free nose-biting teacup for each Frog Spawn soap purchase. Sounds like an amazing deal to me. Those teacups are hilarious and can be a bit pricey.
I might just have to search my trunk for some galleons. That's fantastic.
Now back to the topic on hand. Which teams do you actually think show promise this year? And please don't bring up the cannons again.
Oh, bugger off. We've already discussed my opinion on that. Now, I think the Ballycastle Bats are a bit lacking in their keeper this year and are counting on their chasers to counteract this. Their first match is against the Montrose Magpies, who have not been as consistent in the past as the Bats, but I think they can give them a challenge.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Looks like the Bats have highly skilled chasers, fairly good beaters, but their keeper isn't quite up to par with them. I wonder why they went with a weaker keeper, though, especially knowing that a lot of the teams in the league have chasers that are pretty evenly matched with theirs.
Maybe they have a couple tricks up the sleeve that we haven't thought of yet.
Alright, well that's going to do it for this week's episode of Balls and Beaters. Tune in next week when we will have our predictions for the Quidditch Cup.
For Wallace Smith, I'm Monty Stevens. Back to you, Taylor and Morgan.
All right, I think that wraps it up for us here at the Quib. I think that's it, don't you, Taylor?
I believe so.
All right. Well, then I'm going to say thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.
And as always, mischief managed.